There is a knowledge that has never been written in books, a teaching transmitted only by word of mouth, from master to disciple, from initiate to initiate. They called it the 33rd degree, the point at which a human being stops seeking answers outside and begins to listen to what has always been within. But what does reaching the 33rd degree really mean? Why does this number appear in such diverse traditions, from Kabbalah to Christianity, from alchemy to the occult schools of the East? And most intriguingly, why do the few who have reached it claim that, afterward, reality has never been the same? Before answer, you need to understand something that almost no one dares to say out loud. The 33rd degree is not a title. It is a frequency of consciousness. And those who reach it begin to realize that reality is not something that can be observed. It is something that projects. But how do you design a conscious reality? How do you awaken something the world itself has tried to make you forget? This is the point at which most people give up. And only a small number of people, the selected ones, cross the invisible line between to understand the world and create the world. In the next few minutes, you will discover why this secret was hidden, what the symbol of the 33rd degree really represents, and, most importantly, the spiritual method that transforms knowledge into living power. But first, there's a story that explains why this secret could never be fully revealed. A true story, but one told silently, between the lines of centuries. What happened to the one who dared reveal the 33rd degree? And what did he discover that the world was not ready to hear? He had no known name, no official records, no photographs. But in 1923, at a small esoteric school outside Vienna, this man was described by his colleagues as the one who saw the symbol move. For years, he silently searched for what they called the 33-step ladder. Not a physical ladder, but a sequence of states of consciousness. Each step was achieved through a different kind of renunciation, and each renunciation brought a new kind of insight. The other students thought it was just a symbol, a metaphor for enlightenment, but he insisted otherwise. At 33, he said, the energy rises like a serpent of light up the spine, to the point where man ceases to be mere flesh and becomes word. One night, in meditation, something happened. The silence of the room was broken by a sound no one could explain. The symbol, carved in wood on the wall, seemed to pulse. And he, the disciple, opened his eyes, but he was no longer in the same place. Days later, he disappeared. No body, no explanation. Just a sentence left in the diary that was found on the table. When the sound of the 33rd echoes within, the external world bows to obey. For decades, scholars have tried to decipher what he meant. Some believe he discovered the secret of the creative verb. Others, that the body could not resist the awakening of an energy that only the selected can bear. But there is something everyone has overlooked. The final instruction, hidden between the lines of his notes. 3 simple gestures, but impossible to understand without correct spiritual context. Gestures that, according to ancient Hermetic manuscripts, activate the internal staircase which leads to the 33rd degree of human consciousness. And that's exactly what you're about to learn. But first, there's a revelation you need to understand. Something that explains why this path is both spiritual and practical. Why 33? Why does this number appear in the human spine, in the vertebrae, in ancient rites, and even in the age of great masters upon transcendence? The answer lies in the body, but the body is only the beginning. The first mistake of those seeking the 33rd degree is trying to understand it with their mind. But the mind is only the echo, never the source of the sound. True awakening begins in the body, because the body is the temple where the invisible becomes tangible. According to ancient Gnostic and Tibetan records, there are 3 secret movements that activate the 33rd degree state. They were not created by men, but discovered by observing the flow of life energy itself. The same flow that rises through the 33 vertebrae of the spine to the skull, where silence transforms into light. The first movement is the silence of the center. Before any practice, there is a point in the middle of the chest that needs to be unlocked. The ancients called it the verb portal. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and listen. Breath is not just air, it is vibration. And vibration is the language with which the invisible speaks. Stay in this state for a few minutes until the external sound disappears. When the silence begins to issue a sound, even a subtle one, you're at the first door. But here's the secret that almost no one realizes. The sound doesn't come from outside, but from within. It's the echo of the universe responding to its own call. The second movement is serpent and light. Imagine a luminous line slowly rising up the spine. Do not visualize, feel. The energy begins at the base of the spine, the first step, and travels, one by one, through the 33 energy points until it reaches the top of the head. Each point is a step of perception. Each step, a part of you that awakens. When the energy reaches the top, there is no explosion. There is absolute silence. And in this silence, the mind tries to escape. But if you remain, something happens. Your breathing changes. You realize you are no longer breathing air. You are breathing conscience. The third and final movement is the forgotten name. Tradition teaches that the 33rd degree is the moment when a person remembers the name they had before birth. It's not a word, it's a vibration. To do this, tilt your head slightly, keep your tongue touching the roof of your mouth, and repeat mentally, I am the sound before the sound. This is the point at which energy and intention unite. Everything said in this state manifests, but only if the emotion is pure. Because the universe doesn't respond to words, it responds to the emotional frequency behind them. These 3 movements, silence, assent, and verb, form the sacred triangle of the 33rd degree. But there's a deeper reason why this practice works, an explanation that transcends the spiritual and touches the very fabric of reality. Why is the 33rd vibration different from any other? And what does it have to do with the hidden code that governs the human body, music, and even light? Everything in the universe vibrates. You've heard that before. But what almost no one understands is that vibration is encoded information. Matter is just the result of a slowed down frequency. When you change the frequency, you change the form. And that's why the 33rd degree is more than mysticism. It's vibrational engineering of consciousness. The ancients said that the human body is the harp on which the universe plays its own music. The 33 vertebrae are not just bones. They are resonance strings, aligned so that each captures an octave of universal energy. As the energy rises, it vibrates in harmony with the 7 notes and 7 colors of the visible spectrum. And when it reaches its highest point, the sound converts to light. Light is just sound at maximum speed. Therefore, the 33rd degree practitioner does not hear with his ears. he see the sound, and he does not see with his eyes. He hear the light. This is the point where the senses intersect, and the human being realizes that he has always lived within a cosmic symphony. But there's an even deeper analogy. The number 33 appears in human DNA. The double helix completes a turn every 10 base pairs, and 33 of those turns form a complete resonance sequence. Coincidence? No. The structure of DNA is the same as the symbolic ladder, a spiral staircase of light, engraved in the flesh, projecting divine geometry into every cell. When you practice the three movements, you are synchronizing the vibration of consciousness with the body's code. The internal and external frequencies align. And it is at this moment that reality begins to behave differently. Coincidences increase. Dreams become messages. Time seems to obey. And everything that previously required effort begins to flow, as if the universe had received a silent command. But this isn't magic, it's coherence. The heart, brain, and breath enter the same 33 Hz wave, the frequency of harmony between the physical and the subtle. It is at this point that the serpent of light becomes conscious, and humankind ceases to be a spectator of the universe and becomes its co-author. But where did this knowledge come from? Who was the first to decode the number 33 as the key to spiritual ascension? And what do ancient traditions from Egypt to the Himalayas have in common regarding this same mystery? For centuries, the most distinct traditions, which have never physically met, have narrated the same secret structure, the same sacred number, 33. In ancient Egypt, the priests of Heliopolis spoke of the ladder of Ra, composed of 33 fiery steps, used by the pharaohs to ascend to the sun after death. In the East, Tibetan masters described 33 levels of consciousness within the Vajra, the inner diamond that shines when body and soul come into perfect harmony. In Greece, Pythagoras, who studied in Egypt and Chaldea, said that the sound of the 33rd is what awakens the man who sleeps within the man. But perhaps the most symbolic reference is found in Christian tradition. Christ, crucified at age 33, the moment when spirit transcends matter, flesh is overcome, and the word returns to its origin. It's no coincidence. It's code. Centuries later, alchemists reinterpreted this same number. They called it the degree of the final work, the stage at which the inner lead, the unconscious, is transformed into spiritual gold. Paracelsus wrote that transmutation is not done in furnaces, but in vertebrae. The Rosicrucians, however, asserted that at the 33rd degree, man becomes the very temple where the spirit recognizes itself. And there's a detail that few have noticed. In the human body, vital energy travels through 33 main nerve channels before reaching the brain. In some mystery schools, it was said that each channel corresponded to an aspect of an oath. Those who completed the internal journey not only knew, but remembered what they always knew. Even in modern science, echoes of this wisdom remain hidden. Nikola Tesla said that if we wanted to understand the universe, we should think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Physicist Max Planck, the father of quantum mechanics, declared, "Matter does not exist. Everything is vibration sustained by consciousness." These statements, separated by centuries, converge on the same point. The universe is a living mind, and the 33rd degree is the moment when the human mind enters into resonance with the universal mind. But there's a reason this knowledge was taught to only a few. not everyone was ready to understand that reality obeys conscious emotional intention. Revealing this too soon would be like giving fire to someone who has not yet learned to heat without burning. But then, what happens when someone actually reaches the 33rd degree? What changes in their life, their thoughts, the signals the universe sends? And most disturbingly, is there evidence that this state actually transforms the external world? There comes a moment when the practitioner realizes that the universe has ceased to be a stage and has become a mirror. Small coincidences begin to align. What once seemed like a chance now seems like an answer. Words spoken in silence are reflected in other people's conversations, in random songs, in repeating numbers that appear as invisible signatures of the invisible. This is the point where the sound of 33rd begins to echo. It's not heard, it's felt. It's a gentle vibration that spreads from the top of your head to your chest, as if the air were alive. The ancient language of the universe awakens within you, and reality begins to operate in sync with your internal state. Many describe this moment as returning to the original home. Others say it's like walking through a motionless portal. But everyone agrees on one thing. After that, fear loses its meaning. Because fear is noise, and the 33rd degree is the pure sound of consciousness. In this state, thoughts don't demand, they command. Emotions don't react, they create. And the universe, like a liquid surface, begins to mold itself to what vibrates within the being. But be careful. This is not a permanent achievement. The 33rd degree is frequency, and every frequency requires maintenance. This is why the ancient masters taught 3 unwritten commandments, which could not be conveyed by words, only lived. The first commandment, don't ask, resonate. The universe does not respond to requests, but to vibrations consistent with the result already manifested. The second commandment, do not seek. Remember, what you seek is already within. To seek is to confirm absence. To remember is to confirm presence. The third commandment, don't teach, radiate. The true master does not speak. He vibrates at a frequency that awakens those around him. When these 3 laws become a natural state, the boundary between the visible and the invisible disappears. It is at this point that the disciple becomes an instrument, and creation responds instantly. This is what the man from Vienna understood before he disappeared. He did not run away. He integrated. The sound of the 33rd echoed within him to such an extent that the outside world absorbed it, and what remained was only the word vibrating in the silence. But if the state is real, if it's possible to reach the 33rd degree in this lifetime, what happens to those who reach it and return? How do they view the ordinary world, people, and time? And what lasting spiritual benefits does it bring? Few know, but those who return from the 33rd degree never return the same. The mind becomes a clean mirror. Nothing is absorbed, everything is reflected clearly. Emotions cease to be waves that drag and become guiding currents, and life, previously unpredictable, begins to fall into place as if an invisible intelligence were paving the way ahead. The man who disappeared in Vienna didn't leave a body, but he did leave signs. In the following months, 3 of his disciples reported identical phenomena. Lucid dreams, with the same phrase echoing, when the sound of the 33rd echoes within, the outside world bows to obey. These dreams transformed them. One reported healing an incurable illness after 3 days of continuous meditation. Another described receiving a professional and financial response the exact moment he felt the energy rise up his spine. And the third simply began foreseeing encounters, messages, and coincidences before they happened. None of this was seen as a miracle. It was seen as vibrational coherence, the universe responding to the right vibration. And that's what the 33rd degree does. It doesn't change the world, changes the observer. And when the observer changes, the world simply follows suit. The true spiritual benefit of the 33rd degree is the return to origin, clarity in the face of doubt, serenity amidst chaos, the silent wisdom of realizing that everything that arrives is necessary, and everything that leaves is also necessary. Those who vibrate at this frequency stop asking to understand the universe and start to participate in its creation. The mind ceases to be a receiver and becomes a transmitter. And with each act, thought, and word, human beings begin to shape the reality around them as an artist molds clay, not with force, but with intention. The 33rd degree is the reunion of sound with light, the fusion between words and silence. It is the point at which duality ceases and the being recognizes, I and the universe are the same gesture. The 33-step staircase that man climbed in silence remains present in each of us, because the temple where the sound resonates is not in Vienna, nor in secret manuscripts. It is in the very column of the soul. Every pure thought is a stepping stone. Every elevated emotion, another step. And when consciousness finally reaches the top, what it finds is not the secret of the universe, but the echo of itself saying, I am. But the cycle is not yet complete. All knowledge, to remain alive, must be shared. And the true purpose of the 33rd degree is not to keep the secret. It is to make the sound echo through other awakened hearts. The 33rd degree was never a secret reserved for the few. It was just a sound that most forgot to hear. You now know. The true temple is within. The ladder is the body, and the sound is consciousness calling for itself. But this video doesn't end there, because awakening doesn't end with knowledge, but with conscious use of it. When you finish this video, don't immediately return to the noise of the world. Close your eyes, breathe, and listen to the inner sound, the one that vibrates when you become silent. That's where the 33rd begins to echo. What if something inside you recognized this truth? Then this encounter was no coincidence. Nothing is. It was the universe reminding you of something you already knew, but had forgotten for a while. So, before you leave, do what the initiates called gesture of continuity. Pass the vibration forward. Subscribe to the channel now, because the next step is already being prepared, and it could be what you need. Share this video with someone who's ready to hear it. Leave a like so this message can reach other awakened souls. You activate the full consciousness of the 33rd degree. Here, each video is a fragment of the staircase, each word a vibration, and each awakened viewer a new note in the silent choir of creation. The universe is always speaking, but only those who vibrate to the sound of the 33rd are capable of listening to the answers. This is the point where mystery and consciousness become one. This is the 33rd degree, and now it lives in you.